Hello and welcome to another Succeed with Dyslexia interview. We have another incredible guest, a great friend of mine, Arran Smith, who's going to be talking to us about not only the Dyslexia Show that's coming up, which I'm sure everyone wants to kind of attend after we had kind of the pandemic and obviously had to be cancelled, and now it's being relaunched, rebirthed. So we're really, really excited to be a part of that. And Arran, we want to obviously talk to you about your entrepreneurship. We also would love to talk about your kind of experience around dyslexia. So without further ado, Arran, would you like to introduce yourself? Start with your name, that'd be great, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks very much, Darren. So I'm Arran Smith. I am a severely dyslexic adult. I'm 37 years old. I have to keep remembering this because I'm very close to my next birthday, and I always forget to remember what age I am. So I'm at the moment 37, and I class myself as a severely dyslexic adult. So I have a reading age of a 9-year-old, spelling age of an 8-year-old. I have no automatic reading capabilities. I also have tendencies of ADHD, ASD, and dyspraxia. Now, I have got a cup of tea, Darren, so hopefully I won't knock it over like I normally do in these kind of things. So we hopefully won't have to stop the recording at all for me having to mop up stuff because of my dyspraxia.
Honestly, Arran, firstly, I want to say a massive thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to speak with us at Succeed. Arran, with regards to, I mean, there's so much we can kind of dive into with that. If we kind of took, kind of the diagnosis side of it, how did that kind of look for you, and what kind of age, and what was that journey looking like?
So I was diagnosed at age 9, and I was diagnosed by, it was kind of a twofold concept. So my mum was saying from probably the age of 6 that there's something not right. I remember her telling me that my year 2 teacher didn't believe in anything like it, like dyslexia. My year 3 teacher, that I remember year 3 quite well because I had 2 teachers. One I really liked and one I didn't like because they were like a job share, and that was they didn't understand me either. But when I was in year 4, we had an NQT, newly qualified teacher, and she was the one that kind of really started this concept. But as well, my mum and dad decided to take me to Dyslexia Institute, which was called Dyslexia Action, which is unfortunately no longer with us anymore. Here in Leicester, they had a centre in Leicester. And I was diagnosed by an educational psychologist, and I was told I was dyslexic. But since then, I think I've had now about 6 diagnoses, or because what happens is specialist teachers or ed psychs go, "We have this new test, Arran, do you mind if we test it on you?" And I'm going, "Yeah, why not?" But it was interesting. I remember my mum telling me I was dyslexic, and I had this kind of revelation. It's like, oh, this is why. This is what it is, and this is quite amazing to me. And I think that I found really beneficial. But then on the flip side of it, I then realized, okay, this is why my sister, who's 3 years younger than me, can read better than me. This is why I'm being picked on at school for not knowing 1 times 1 is. This is why I don't have friends. I can't play sport. I'm relating to older people rather than younger people rather than people my own age. And I kind of use the analogy that dyslexia is like going to the dentist. And now I had 8 teeth taken out when I was younger over a period of 5 years. So I hate the dentist massively. Even now, the anxiety is too much sometimes. But actually, that is how I thought dyslexia was then. And I was very depressed. I didn't actually realize until me and my mum have had lots of conversations about this, that actually how worried she was about me. Because the concept of things like mental health, like in the past 5 years, it's become more okay to talk about it. It wasn't 10 years, 15 years ago when I was diagnosed. But it was fascinating. It was. I got given a book, and the book is called "So You Think You Think You Have a Problem," and it's a book that I recommend to any dyslexic to read, especially young dyslexic, because the first page, and I kind of memorized the opening. It says, "Many, many books have been written for your mum and dad. I thought it was high time I wrote one for yourself." Wow. And that explained kind of the bits of dyslexia it was really amazing to read, and big font, big A4 booklet, so it wasn't too hard. On some pages there was just too much text and I didn't read it, but the majority of that started me understanding what dyslexia was. And actually then now I go, actually, when I talk to parents or talk to young people, I always say to them, understand your dyslexia, understand your strengths, understand your differences, understand your difficulties. Because if you can get a grasp of all of them, you then can start supporting yourself and moving forward.
Absolutely. And if I could just thank you so much again for sharing that, Arran. And with regards to that book, that must have been, that really kind of struck a chord with me, because there is so much. When we talk about dyslexia, we always talk about the person that's assisting the person. So we also maybe the parent and the teacher. And it's sometimes the actual person with dyslexia is kind of, it feels sometimes that no one's actually speaking directly to them.
Yeah.
It's almost a case of how can we help? How can we support in a really great way? Don't get me wrong. But that must have resonated really, for the first time someone's actually speaking to me.
The thing is, I remember it. And yes, I reference the book a lot. So I reference it more than I ever did. But I remember it because actually that teacher, and it's one of these things that when we talk about Dyslexia Show, it's one of the things that I've been trying to find and I can't find is that teacher to come to the show. Now, another teacher when we talk about later in school, and I'll talk about my Senko in my upper school, but she is coming to the Dyslexia Show as my guest because that's a different change. But you're right, that book, I remember it. It's got a yellow background, and the other thing I remember is that it had a spiral bound because it was A4 with a spiral bound, and not many books were like that. Normally, like kind of resource books were like that, not this
diary.
And that's thing. So that's how I remember it. So it was definitely interesting, and it was also interesting that teacher said that I was dyslexic, and she used that word. Now, it was never used after that.
Wow.
So the word dyslexia, I was never up until I started in year 10 doing my GCSEs. The word dyslexia was never mentioned at school. It was mentioned at home. It was mentioned with my mum and dad. They'd taken me to the Leicestershire Dyslexia Association, which is an independent charity affiliated to the British Dyslexia Association that ran an after-school workshop, which still runs an after-school workshop today. But going there when I was 9, I'm now chairman of that group as well. It's just another thing that I do. And small local charity that we've had up to 30 children every Saturday morning have lessons. But that going there and using the word dyslexia kind of then resonated with me. But having her name was Miss Hughes, and I always remember it because luckily for me, she was also my year 6 teacher. So year 5, I had the deputy head as my teacher, and we never saw him. And my year 6, we had Miss Hughes again, and about halfway through, like this term, actually, so theoretically this time, I had enough. I had enough with all the bullying. I had enough with that, and I said to her, I don't want to come to school anymore. And literally, she said, "Go to the place which I don't like, which is the library. Go to the library," which I went to. I don't like the library, but I went there, and basically, I had 7 people come and apologise to me as I walked back into the classroom because people were like, they understood me, and that's the thing. It is, and it is. There's some things you remember from primary school, and that was one thing. The other thing was the Senko room, or the special needs room, which was the room that had all the furniture from the Victorian time. It was the best way to describe it. It's all massive old furniture, loads of drawers, and I don't know if you remember, Darren, like the pinboards were all furry that you used to have in schools. Yeah. So that was the tabletop. And this is the weirdest thing to tell anyone, but it is weird because this is how things like sensory overload really affects you. That was what we would use to write on. Now, it was horrible to write, horrible to touch, and I still get a feeling of stress when I feel it. But the only way I could relieve that kind of anxiety was to lick it. That it's a weird thing to say, and that meant now that it kind of, when I say it, the anxiety part of it and that feeling approach, that kind of overstimulation goes, and they're the things I remember from primary school. Them 3 things. There's probably other things like something like having a conversation about the rain and basically how do you check if it's raining? Well, you look in a puddle, don't you? But that's some things you remember from primary school. You
touched on briefly around kind of well-being and mental health and those sides of it. And again, we're having the conversations now, which is fantastic. There's still loads to be done in so many different scenarios, but that we're having these conversations. You spoke about the teacher that kind of believed in you in this sense, and how do you kind of, being kind of with regards to dyslexia, for me, I guess I tend to surround myself by incredible people that can kind of help and support in so many different ways. So I kind of know my skills and I know how to kind of harness them and what I can kind of work on, and then I kind of, let's say, kind of lean on people, but utilize other people around them. and how have you kind of how's that worked within your your job, your entrepreneurship that you're doing? How's that worked for you?
I think the thing that's interesting for me is that it's probably only when I started working for the BDA that I really did that. That's when it really came apparent, when I actually did that, because the jobs I did prior to that didn't really kind of have that kind of concept. But I think you're right. I think when I went, I think what it was is so. I'm going to carry on the story about school, because there's two other areas there. Because when I went to high school, there were two things that happened. So it started now that the learning support room was bigger. It was yellow. It had a computer. It was really interesting to be part of that. And it was open for lunchtime. So it was a safe place. So that is one thing there. Going back to that safe place there happened. And I had the support. I'd been given my statement. I got that statement at the end of primary. And there's things you remember, like going back to my memory of primary. I remember that doing my SATs at primary, I had the photocopier lady write down every time I'd asked them a question. She literally wrote everything that I'd said. I must have asked her like 27 times to read stuff. And I think she went through 3 of them spelling books in that session. But that I remember things like that. But yeah, I also went for a micro technology assessment test to get a laptop at high school, which I did get in year 9. But in year 8, I was told, my mum was told, and I don't remember it. And I think it's because I blocked it out. But my mum says I was there, and a teacher said to me, Arran will never amount to anything because he's the most severely dyslexic person. She says, Arran will never amount to anything because he can't read or write. And that's the thing, you see. So it's that kind of concept it is.
So Arran, with regards to we've spoken about primary school. What was it kind of like the transition then from primary school to kind of secondary school? What was that what was that like? What sort of support did you get there?
Like I said, I went through 3 different schools. So I went through a primary school, secondary school, and then upper school. Now, my secondary school was where I had this teacher that said I never amounted to anything. But then when I went to my high school, I started doing GCSEs. That was when it really changed. So that's when my Senko said to me, Arran, you're the most severely dyslexic person. The first time I've ever heard anyone use the word dyslexia, we're going to support you. And what she did was I had a teaching assistant with me every day. Every lesson, near enough 1-to-1. I think there was if you say there was like 30 lessons over the whole week, I think 3 lessons there wasn't another person in the room to support me and a few others. Now, you asked me earlier about business and how I have that group of people. My kind of automated flight is a human because of that. Now, I'm not knocking it. The support was amazing. But it kind of what I look at is that the independence, when we look at things like technology and being an independent worker, having that human kind of is kind of made me always go to that flight to go into a human. And the same thing with like an email that comes in, the first thing I'll probably do is ring someone rather than reply to them, because actually having a conversation using my voice is the better concept it is. That's the thing. So that's where it is. So it is an interesting, it was very interesting going through school. And I stayed at school and did GCS. I got 5 GCSEs, highest in IT in C. I got a C in IT. But I really enjoyed school. I really liked going to school. I liked that kind of structure. I liked dealing with stuff. My other thing about my upper school when I did GCSEs, we called all our teachers by their first name. We didn't have a uniform, so it was very relaxed. We had some laughs. I learned to be a lighting engineer. I learned to be a sound engineer just by doing events. Previous to that in high school where the deputy head taught me PowerPoint. So over my education, I've actually had lots of initial things that have kind of led me into the career I do now.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it was interesting. But yeah, I left school and I started working as a youth worker. I did that job for 2 years, got made redundant. Didn't want to go to university and do the degree. I wanted to do it as on-site training. That was a bit harder to do, but it could have been done. But the organisation I was working for made me redundant. So I then ended up working I needed a job. So I worked as a labourer on a building site, pushing a wheelbarrow as a dyspraxic. It was quite hilarious. And then I worked for a large retail company, and I worked there for 5.5 or nearly 6 years before I got the job working for the BDA. And I really enjoyed that customer service concept.
Yeah.
but they did not understand that dyslexia affects your day-to-day life. So I made an error on the till, which probably cost me personally, about £2,500 worth of bonus. Wow. Because I made that error. Because that store we did so well, I didn't get it, and I was a supervisor, so I would have got a little bit more. But because I overrode our till system, it was really hard. But I'm like, you know what, that's fine. We just we have to keep moving forward. We do, and that's the thing. So it's busy, but then having that volunteer life with the Leicestershire Dyslexia Association, starting working for the BDA as the membership development officer for their 5 years, getting access to work, which had that support worker at the BDA, working with them, having that support all the while. And having an organisation that also understands dyslexia was just amazing, and actually changing my life, because that's the thing. So the BDA changed my life probably 3 times. Having a local group here in Leicester, 2009, I got my BDA Young Achievers Award for the work I was doing at Leicester, and then when I became a member of staff, because that changed my life financially, because I had a career. Yeah, and that's the thing, and yeah, but being made redundant from them in 2016 was hard. And going on to that entrepreneur stuff is probably your next question.
There's so many questions, Arran. So many questions. So did you always, because kind of growing up and understanding, kind of that you had, dyslexia, and obviously the word was being that. Was it just kind of by chance, or did you always kind of want to kind of liaise and work with the British Dyslexia Association? Did you, the work that you primarily do, that you do now, is in that kind of sector, in that field, and it just seems, was it something that you always wanted to gravitate towards to work in that industry?
No and yes. So okay.
We'll go with that.
That's a very good answer, is no and yes. So when I was 19, I started my first business. And I did web hosting and web development. I hate building websites personally now, and just because I'm not very good at coding. I understand the concept of code, but I'm not a coder. There's too many ifs and whats and where's, when's, how's, and all of that stuff. So it's actually quite difficult it is for me. So it is a kind of a bit of a
minefield.
Bit of a minefield. So I didn't really did that. I did that. It was really ironic. I found my I was going through some paperwork when I moved house about 5 years ago. I found the paperwork from that business, and it was just hilarious to see that I turned over £1,000 in 1 year. And I was like, well, that was quite good fun for me. It was. Made lots of mistakes, learned a lot about business by making that mistake, and that's why working for that retail company and then moving to the BDA kind of changed it, because I understood the industry. I understood it. I was doing a lot of volunteer work for the BDA. I was the youngest trustee at the time that the BDA had. I was already a young representative for the local association board. So I represented all 58 local associations at that time. Wow. As a young person, and I was under 30. I think I was under 25 at that time, so that's why I was classed as a young person. And it was really good fun. I really enjoyed it. And the BDA had gone through a lot of issues. They'd had a lot of issues with management and money at that time. So we were coming out the other side of that, and I kind of supported on that concept. So So the kind of thing that was there, I had a lot of time for the organization. I was like, no, I can do the job. It wasn't hard for me to develop the management system we need to develop. It wasn't hard for me to talk and support groups. And it wasn't hard for me to that. One of the projects I did is I did a mobile. I had Dyslexia on the Move, which was a project that I ran. I drove a red van round. A number of people just say that Arran's driving his postman Pat van round without a cat, because I don't like cats. I drove that around where that had like a display, it had books in it, we had information, and we went to loads of different places over a year. I was able to do an event in Manchester at Manchester Central, which is the exhibition centre, and I got permission to park it on the forecourt, which no one has ever done. Normally you have to pay thousands for it, and I just was cheeky enough to go, I got this van that has the big word dyslexia on it, can I park it outside the front? And I was like, yeah, why not?
As you do. Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Actually don't get no Arran, do you?
And that's what I did when I was at the BDA. If you didn't ask, you didn't get anything. And I asked, and I did pretty well for that organisation, I think.
So, Arran, can I just ask, because you're very entrepreneurial, and people that know you know exactly, that you're very entrepreneurial and, so many aspirations. Where do you get that kind of entrepreneurial spirit from? If you can answer that, and have you had that?
Okay, so I don't get it from my parents, because neither of my mum still says to me, "You're going to get a proper job." Probably not now, but for 3 years of working for myself, she was like, "You're going to get a proper job," and I'm like, "I have got a proper job." It's like Mum, I have a contract with one of the largest IT companies in the world. There's 2 IT companies, and one of them I have a contract with, so it was quite good. I think it is that dyslexia tendency. I think that's the thing. To me, it's got to be that. It's that having dyslexia, having the ADHD tendencies of being able to manage multiple things, being able to look at something straight away and think like it's like even this morning looking at an idea we're doing for one of the companies around technology and app development, having an idea straight away of how to make it better and be more forthcoming for people with literacy difficulties, and that's the thing. But I think when I left the BDA, I applied for 17 jobs, and I applied for anything and everything. I applied to be a head of a charity in Nottingham. I applied to be the office manager for a local zoo. I applied to be a customer service manager for a local theme park. And these are things that interest me, because I still liked interacting with people.
That front house kind of customer.
That front house thing, I think that actually that I never thought that I'd actually do what I do today with the companies that we run and what we've done. And when we look back, it's like there's credit to different people. It's like Sen Group, which is our CPD company, that would not have happened without people like Steve Chin. Professor Steve Chin, who's one of the leading experts in dyscalculia. If he hadn't said he wanted to do webinars, I wouldn't have done it. And again, you see, if he had said he wanted to run his dyscalculia course, we wouldn't have done it. Yeah. And actually, there's credit with the association with Scanning Pens. Toby, who's the chief operating officer of Scanning Pens, and Jack both asked me when I left the BDA to come and do some part-time consultancy work. I never even thought of doing consultancy, and if it wasn't for them doing that, I wouldn't have done that. Wouldn't have worked for them. Worked for Nessie. Worked for Claro. Worked for Deco Comics, Dyslexia Box, and now Microsoft. I wouldn't have done it without that moving forward. And it's things like going to St David's College and doing an IT project around dyslexia, around accessibility. If I hadn't sent that information to a colleague in Microsoft that I knew, I wouldn't be with them. Yeah. So you kind of think, everything is there for a purpose. And that's the thing. It's like, and we founded Sen Group and LVA Group in 2016. 2019, we created Dyslexia Show from the idea of me attending local events, national events, and kind of going, actually, I'd had the idea before. The idea had been in my head for a long time. And it is scary. It's massively scary. It's not a cheap option to run an exhibition. It isn't. And a lot of it's on my shoulders, and that you have to manage as well, which is, it's still amazing fun. But the purpose of Dyslexia Show is to support people and offer that kind of support. And then like I said, we said before we started doing this, that we bought Read Successfully only in 2021, which is the home of Trugs, Teaching Reading Using Games, which is a phonics resource. And that is bought because me and my wife want to work together, and she teaches in our Dyslexia Association. So it's a logical fit for us with Sen Group and with what we're doing. And for me, I'm always looking. If you don't look and you don't see what's out there, and you have to think, actually, you know what? We're all in a different place. We all do different things when it comes to business. And there's things that I bring, I understand, and we just need to move it forward. We do, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask about the Dyslexia Show, which you so elegantly mentioned. So Arran, just for our viewers and our listeners, can you just tell us a little bit about this, the Dyslexia Show? If anyone doesn't know about it, I'm pretty sure that mostly anyone who's listening is aware of this. But could you?
Hopefully, they do know about it. Yeah.
So if you could just tell us a little bit more when it is and what that kind of looks like, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
That's fine. So Dyslexia Show is the UK's first national exhibition purely dedicated to dyslexia. And the concept is that we want to offer an informed choice to education, parents, the workplace. So we looked at it as a demographic. And this side, like I said, the idea has been around in my head a long time. It started in 2019. It was actually because I had a conversation with one of our sponsors at an event and they wanted to know more. And I went back and told them more and they said, right, we'll support it. And they supported it. So that meant that we were able to go back to the NEC. So it's at the NEC in Birmingham. It takes place on the 25th, 26th of March, literally not many days' time. So it's a little bit stressful, but it's fine. And the point of it is we've got over 50 exhibitors attending, anything from hardware resellers to publishers, to charities, anything related to the dyslexia education community is there. We also have a number of workplace specific organizations within our workplace section. So that's a really good thing because that was an area that I hadn't really thought about, but actually it's an area that really needs development. So workplace is a big area of development, a big area of actually, and especially because of the pandemic, I think that has really become now more a high priority for medium to large companies and hopefully now for smaller companies because our people that were probably not diagnosed early enough or did not understand their dyslexia came out of their routine. That routine of driving to work is now we were working online. That routine of having that 5-minute positive procrastination break, going to the concept of the water cooler didn't happen. And this is the thing. So things like access to work have been a big help in that. And actually so workplace is a big area because actually we've talked about it and we can prove it that actually entrepreneur skill is massively positive within certain companies. And that's why we need to do it. But, it's taking place. We've got over 60 seminars going on, plus, there's 11 keynote sessions. There's six workshops for parents and children. There is 14 demo sessions going on. This is where companies will be demoing their products and services. So it's actually kind of like it's massive in the sense that actually what we've done. Literally before I was talking to you, Dan, I was talking to our stand builder, and we're taking 50% of his panel stock. Now, that doesn't mean it's a lot going on, but basically when you look at a show, it's built in what they call shell scheme or panels, and we've got 50% of his stock. That's how big our show is. And from an NEC point of view, it's still quite small. It only takes 3/4 of one hall. It's the second smallest hall in the building. It's in Hall 8. Starts at 9:30, but be there early because at 9:25 you'll get to see me cut the ribbon, open the show for the first time, and the plan is that we're going to run it every year going forward. That's the plan. It is because for us, the real reason why I did it was because there is amazing support from charities. There's amazing support from all the dyslexia charities in the UK and the wider world. There's amazing support from local groups. There's amazing support from companies that make resources. There's amazing support in our education system. Yep. But we need to bring them all together.
Absolutely.
Because a parent will be at one place compared to another parent, or could be at the same place, but in different parts of the world. And do they know that this book exists? Do they know that this piece of technology exists? Do they know this resource exists? They don't, unless they talk, unless they know it. Knowledge is power. And the same thing from a teacher point of view. A teacher goes, okay, I have this child. These are the differences that they're facing. Can we actually support that? Oh, actually, I'm going to go to this session with this speaker and let's talk about it. And that's the important thing. So these are the things that actually are really interesting for us and really powerful. And that's why we've done it. It is. And that's thing. And I'm going to be very, very much now the thing that actually Darren is speaking in our workplace zone about his life of being in business and how he's succeeded with dyslexia. That was very good, wasn't it?
Very good plug. Very good
plug there, guys. So that's the thing. But no, it's amazing. I can't believe it. I'm really happy. Like I said, over 60 speakers coming. That's the thing. But it's like there's so many things that I knew and so many things I've learned, and we've fostered now a really good team of people. We have an amazing operations manager that has worked at the NEC before, so she kind of glues everything together. She kind of takes my wacky ideas and go, can I do this? I'll give you a prime example. I'm really good friends both with my stand builder and my AV person, and my AV person is also looking at how we make sure that if you're speaking, you have internet. So if you're playing a video, we need to be able to play it.
Yeah.
So we've got our plan now. Internet is not the cheapest thing to do at exhibition centres. Doesn't matter which one you go to, it's not the cheapest thing. So we can find out different ways now. So then you think, okay, we'll use 4G or 5G. Can you do that? But then you got to think, well, actually, there's 4 or 5 other shows going on at the same time as the Dyslexia Show. So that's going to be an issue. Is there another way? And you may have heard of it. I'm just going to mention it. You may have heard of Starlink from Elon Musk, the SpaceX thing. Yeah. And I was like, I'm dead sure we can put a cable and a satellite dish outside in an area outside the NEC hall. And I rang up our ops manager. She went, I just looked at the planet. Well, there is a cat flap for cables to go outside. So someone has talked about it before. And this is the thing. Then she goes, just be aware that if you do that, you've got to do this, 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 and this, and then this form and this form and this form. And I'm going, okay, we'll wait until next year to do that because it's just like more paperwork. And I'm like, I'm probably 3 or 4 weeks out before the show, probably a bit less than that. And it's just like, that's constantly what we do.
But that's that entrepreneurial brain, the way kind of you think of things, and you actually say, well, what, you're asking these questions. Well, can we not do this? Can we not do this? Can we, not the kind of the standard structured.
I don't want to do anything standard. I will break the mold for everything if I can do. That's the thing. It's like it is fascinating, but I think that from an NEC point of view, the NEC are massively behind us. They've been very supportive. They are really impressed as well. It's like, and from an event point of view, so like you said, if people don't know me in the dyslexia world, that's quite unheard of if people haven't heard of me, and that's not to be indicated. That's what Darren said, not what I said.
Okay.
but in the event industry, we are a very small player. But we have got the admiration of the NEC, the admiration because they couldn't believe that back in 2020 or 2019, when we were planning this originally, we had like 10 sponsors within 3 months. Like they'd never heard of a launch show getting so many sponsors so quickly. And that thing is that for me, I believe that actually dyslexia is a big part of everyone's life. There's 6.7 million people in the UK today that have some severity of dyslexia, according to the BDA, with 50% of the prison population with a literacy difficulty. Now, the restraint that if we actually took that and looked at it from a resource point of view for our economy, that's huge. Yeah. It is. If we actually tackle this, add education properly, and actually deal with it from a point of view of actually teaching children to read and write and to spell, but to also understand the differences. And if they need then a resource, to use that resource, then we can then go, actually, you know what, these people can go into society. Like access, I go back to access to work. Without access to work, I'd probably have 1 company, not 4. And probably would not have Dyslexia Show, because having that person that is there for them 30 hours a week that can just manage stuff and help me, which isn't a family member, because that's the other thing that, yes, I could use. Me and my wife work really closely together on companies, but it's a very different relationship to having an actual member of staff that actually is there to do a job, who does a job amazingly. And Paula is my support worker, and couldn't do this without her. It's like that's the thing. You've got to have this support network, like you said earlier, Darren, that supports you and helps you. It is, and that's the thing. So it's.
Arran, we're coming up close to our time now, but honestly, I'm really looking forward to. It's been fantastic catching up with you, and it always is fantastic catching up and discussing the entrepreneurship, the Dyslexia Show, all the things that you're doing. I'm really looking forward to coming to your event later on this month. I wish you all the very, very best with all of your different ventures, and obviously the Dyslexia Show. Arran, if people wanted to kind of enroll for the show or get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can get hold of yourself?
Okay, so for Dyslexia Show, it's dyslexiashow.co.uk. Just go on there, register on there. It's free to register. If you're a parent and you want to go to a seminar, it's £9. Educators, £17. Workplace, £79. You get a bigger package as a workplace person. That's quite a nice package as well. If you want to just follow us on social media, if you want to follow me on Twitter. I'm big on Twitter. At Arran Dyslexia is my handle, is the best way to say, and it's ARRAN Dyslexia, and that's how you can get hold of me. You can always send me a DM on there. Happy to reach out and just come along to the show. You'll see me. I'll be the one that'll be running around with 27 walkie-talkies, 14 mobile phones, 17 clipboards, and probably roller skates. That's who I'll be. That's the thing, and I'll probably be followed by then a lady that's like looks really that is really organised, because that's what Tammy is. So it's going to be good. It's going to be amazing.
Arran, thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy day. It's been incredible speaking to you, and we will catch up with you very, very soon. Take care, Arran. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we did putting it together. Now we have some more fantastic content for you. Please feel free to click this link here and learn more about Nick Posford, the CEO of the British Dyslexia Association, and some of the events that they put on annually. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.